The Crown is reappealing my case. They're using your tax dollars. They're using the weaponization of the judicial system against me to have me tried again in court to obtain 5 years in prison.
Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan, and tonight I'm joined by none other than Pat King. What's going on, man?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
I think better than you.
Yeah, I don't wish this upon anybody. It's a hell of a ride. It's an experience, I'll tell you that much, when you're dealing with this kind of nonsense. And well, I guess I could say it's not an I told you so, but we kind of knew what we were getting into, but I didn't know the scope that it would take. So here we are. It's going to get worse before it's got to get better. And well, I think I'm at the point right now where it's got pretty worse and I'm ready for it to get better.
So I reached out to you because I saw your live that you did on Monday, and I was interested in kind of exploring the points that you're making there, because if that is accurate, if what you're saying is true, this is scary shit that we're seeing on the horizon. And before we get into this, I just want to make sure I got all my facts straight here and kind of go through what you've been through. So you were found guilty of 5 charges, 3 counts of mischief, 2 counts of disobeying the law. You spent 9 months in custody before and during the trial. You were sentenced to 3 months of house arrest, 100 hours of community service, 1 year probation. You were acquitted on other charges, including intimidation related charges. And those are the charges that the Crown is going after. They filed a notice of appeal last March because your sentence, supposedly in their opinion, was too light. They were seeking 10 years, but you keep on speaking about 5. Does that make sense what I'm saying up to now?
Yeah, just correction on one thing. I didn't do 9 months in jail. I did 6 months in total, 5 months in total, 161 days in custody prior to being released on bail. Then I was credited for 9 months.
Got you.
Incarceration. And then they gave me 3 months continuous sentence of house arrest.
So the 9 months is because you did 6 and everything.
Yeah.
Time served prior or during trial is always seen as 1.5, right?
Correct. So time served 1.5, given an accumulation of 9 months in total.
So now that we have that clear, now that we're all on the same page here as to what happened to you, explain to us what happened on Monday.
Okay, so the Crown isn't so brief kind of synopsis back to where we were. The Crown was seeking 10 years on the 9 charges that I had, 4 of which I was found not guilty of. They didn't get their 10 years. They got their 1 year, and they got what they got out of me. And what they're doing now is they are using the one intimidation charge, that is the intimidation of blocking roads in the form of a protest. That I was found not guilty of, and I was found not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. There was no evidence of me blocking roads. I didn't even have a vehicle there. No law enforcement dealt with me with regards to blocking roads. No law enforcement testified to me blocking roads when asked on the stand. No citizens of Ottawa testified that I blocked any roads. In fact, many of them didn't even know who I was. So in the grand scheme of things, the judge stated, well, you're not guilty. There's no evidence to prove that you did any of this. The Crown is stating that the slow roll around the airport was where the blocking of highways and infrastructure occurred. The one thing that the Crown didn't understand in that is there's evidence to prove and testimony that there was no disruption at the airport. There was no disruption in late flights. There was no disruption in takeoffs. There was no disruption in vehicle because there was 2 lanes, and 2 of the lanes were wide open. Only 1 lane was used to slow roll, and everybody, the key word you take away from it, slow roll. Nobody's hindered access into the airport. In fact, they tested it with a ambulance, and the ambulance got through with flying colors. And this was all proven in court. Now the Crown is seeking, because they didn't get the 10 years, the Crown is seeking 5 years on the basis of, and they said this straight up on Monday, these types of charges of blocking traffic in a form of a protest need to have a harsher punishment, and we need it to be penitentiary time, 2 years plus a day federal charge for anybody in the future who disrupts traffic at any time in a protest. Now, this doesn't just pertain to protests, though, Nico. This pertains to strikes, picketing, this to parades, things like that. It risks the ability of anybody. When you protest, protesting is a form of disruption. It's a form of inconvenience. It's a protest. That's how you describe it, even in the dictionary. Now what they're doing, and even the judge stated on Monday, is you got to be very careful about this. You're teetering very close on, rights and freedoms of Canadians amongst the charter. And that was exact, and it was paraphrased almost identical to what Justice Hackland in my trial said when they tried to do this in my trial. And they stated right there, the Justice Hackland said, look man, are you telling me you want 10 years for these types of charges? And the Crown says, yes. He says, you're in the wrong courtroom for that. You will never get that. You're violating their rights. And he says, that's fine. That's what we want. And the Crown attorney said the exact same thing on Monday, just in different paraphrase, and said that we need to make a statement with these protests. So this is where my importance of, I don't care. You want to take me to court, but it's the impact that this is going to make in the future, as well as how it plays along in with Bill C-9. And Bill C-9 is this is where it's going to play in. Is it hate speech that they're protesting? Oh, and not only is it hate speech that they're protesting, now they're blocking traffic. So now we want more. What they don't know, and people don't know, is what the future holds. And I'm not saying I can read the future or I know what the future holds, but I do know statistics and patterns, and I see the direction that this country is going into. And there's going to be many, many, many more protests in the future coming, and people are going to take to the streets, and the same thing's going to happen. Guess what? It's going to be King versus King. They're going to use as case study, and they're going to put you in jail for 2.5 years. That's what they want. They want this in law, because what happens next, Nico, is if it comes back a 2-1 judgment, then the Crown will take it to the Supreme Court. And they want this in the Supreme Court. And here's how I'll break it down for the audience and yourself. In the Supreme Court, we have stacked judges, all liberal judges on the Supreme Court, that will rule against me, will find me guilty, and then that becomes law. It bypasses Parliament. It bypasses amendments. It bypasses going through the proper channels to amend laws or to make laws, where it has to go through first reading, then it's got to go to royal assent, then it's got to be signed off. Whereas in the Supreme Court, this will be expedited and sped through, and it'll be law right away if it's ruled in the Supreme Court.
You said that on Monday, and I found it to be very confusing because I do read law texts all the time, but I think what you're referring to is setting a precedence, right?
Correct.
So basically your appeal or your reappeal, the Crown right now wants to send it to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court has the power to create a precedent on the federal level. So every single province in Canada would be affected by that precedent. But they're
100%.
they're not setting laws. What they're saying is they're interpreting laws. This is what was passed, but us as the Supreme Court of Canada, we will tell you what it actually means. So they're not creating laws. They're just setting it in stone to say that's what they meant. And now that if you have a case where somebody blocks traffic or makes it difficult for pedestrian, for cars, for traffic to go ahead, they can go to your case if you're found guilty. And I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but that's what they're trying to do, is to set that precedence. That's what you mean, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they've already shown that that's what they're trying to do based off an already incident that occurred in Ottawa with Palestinian protesters. They were protesting in Ottawa. They got arrested for the same mischief, counseling to mischief, intimidation, all of that stuff. And they used in their bail conditions, in their bail hearings, they used King versus Queen or King versus King bail hearing in order to give the same protesters the exact same conditions that I had, which is laying the foundation already now for anybody who gets arrested protesting. My name is going to come up in your bail hearing. Now they want that same thing to happen when it comes time to when they get you in the courts to try you. Now my name's going to come up again, King versus King. Here's where he is found guilty. He went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that Mr. King did block traffic. In fact, he did not block traffic physically. He had coerced people to block traffic. And therefore, Mr. King was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Yeah, because you're responsible for what other people do, is basically what they're saying. But
That's
you know,
exactly it. And what else they're saying is the fact that, so here you have 5 intimidation charges that were not found, or sorry, 4 intimidation charges that were found not guilty of, 2 of which were the most heinous of them, and that was counseling to intimidate law enforcement and intimidating law enforcement. Those 2 were found not guilty, and in fact found not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt within significant respects, and it was stated in my trial. And the Crown isn't appealing those 2, which would hold their 10 years or their 5 years. They're not gonna appeal those 2 intimidation charges, but the one about traffic and blocking roadways, that's the one they're gonna go for. But what the Crown doesn't know, and I'm fine with saying this, because I tried to get this introduced in my trial, is I have evidence, irrefutable evidence, to prove that I did do everything that they're saying within lawful order. In fact, instructed by a police officer of what we were doing around the airport. And that police officer testified at my trial and stated that she didn't even know who I was. And I have a video of me conversing with her, telling me that everything at the airport was fine. We were doing okay. There was no problems. And she lied on the stand. And I have no problems telling people in the public and telling everybody out there that this is evidence that I have, because I wanted this in my trial and it never got into my trial. They didn't add it because, well, we were found not guilty of this anyway. The judge actually threw these intimidation charges out halfway through my trial because he was like, this is nonsense what you're doing. Like, throw more charges. Like, even the judge was calling it, you're throwing more charges at this guy. What, anything you can to make stick? That's not how we work and operate here, Mr. Karimji. It's crazy.
one of the thing that your live made me realize is I had to research this because I was kind of puzzled. Because in my head, until like I was today old when I found this out, but I thought that if you were found not guilty or guilty, either or, you could not be recharged with the same crimes.
Correct. That is called double jeopardy.
Exactly. And I was under the impression that we did have double jeopardy in Canada. So I researched it and wow, this is messed up what I found. And here is the law. The Crown in Canada generally cannot appeal simply because they disagree with the judge's decision, but they can appeal it if they argue that the judge made a significant legal error during the trial, for example, and I believe that's what's happening in your case, wrong interpretation of the law. Under Section 11H of the Charter, if finally acquitted of the offense, not to be tried for it again. The key word being finally. So although Canada has double jeopardy, or has laws against double jeopardy, an acquittal is generally not considered fully final until appeal rights have been exhausted.
Which is Supreme Court.
How insane is that? So basically, your verdict of being found non-guilty is not fully protected against double jeopardy until the Crown says, I'm done. What the fuck type of bullshit is that?
That's Canada. That's Canada. And what they say that the judge erred in law in acquitting the respondent of intimidation under Section 423, subsection 1, subsection G of the Criminal Code. They submit that the acquittal was correct in law and fact section, requires proof of specific intent that the accused acted for the purpose of compelling another person's lawful conduct. Sentencing appeal they were trying to do, the judge erred in imposing a fit and proportionate sentence, which was 9 months. So they're saying that the sentence that I got wasn't fit and proportionate enough to the crimes that were committed. But in fact, the judge actually tacked on an additional 30 days onto my sentence to appease the Crown. And the Crown was like, okay, yeah, well, that's suffice. All right, we'll take that. Case closed. But then the Crown waits still, and this is the slimeball part of this. You have 30 days after your conviction to appeal, either myself or the Crown. I chose not to appeal. The Crown waited till the 30th day at the last hour at 4:30 in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock, it would have been all over. But at 4:30 in the afternoon, they decided to file. That in itself, knowing that the Crown waited till that last half hour, shows the maliciousness, right? To you and me and everybody on the street, we all see it. But to the Crown, oh no, it just took us a little time to, get the evidence together and get the paperwork in. No, you did that intentionally because you knew I was sitting at home going, whew, okay, we're off the hook. No appeal. The Crown's not appealing. We're good. We're going to move forward. And then they filed it. The impact and the precedence that's about to be set here is for future generations in Canada they're going to hate me because I was able to be found guilty for this. The next generation of people coming up that are going to be, obviously, protests will happen all our lives, no matter what civilization we're in. We're going to have some kind of, we're not going to agree. They're going to use this for every person, and this will hold you in courts for 5 years minimum. So what a fantastic way to slip this in the back door while everybody is not watching what's going on. And this is what scares me the most, Nico, when we were talking about this before we started, was the fact that they are so quiet about this right now and nobody's talking about it. Rebel won't touch it. Absolutely not. Why? Because it's Pat King. Oh, wait till Tamara Lich gets on there and then it'll be all about her, because they're going through the same thing. But CBC won't touch it. CTV won't touch it. All the news broadcasts aren't touching this because they don't want the general public to know what's going on. They want this to stay quiet so that it speeds through and they don't catch no flack. And then once it's in and it's in law, the future of Canada is done.
This is the part that is the most worrisome of your whole case, is the precedence that it sets. It is, I've spoken to a lot of lawyers in the past, and there was one of them that I can't remember his name, but he mentioned something that his law firm doesn't take as many cases as others because they're very worried about setting precedent. They do everything they can, not only to defend their clients, but to make sure that they don't fail, so that further generations of Canadians do not pay for their mistakes or do not pay for their failures. And that's what it reminded me of, what you said right now, and you said it on Monday too, is this is where we need to be very aware of what's happening, because your case is setting a precedence for anybody that wants to protest, no matter if you're politically left, you're politically right, or you're like me where you don't like either side.
Exactly.
You are looking at penitentiary time. So 2 years plus 1 day. If I am found guilty of disrupting, whatever the hell that means, if I follow the definition of Bill C9, that means I hurt people's feelings. Is that what disrupting becomes if you back it by Bill C9? Because Sean Fraser, our justice minister, made it very clear that Bill C9 was applicable both online and in real life. And he made it very clear that Bill C9 could be tacked, hate speech could be tacked if you're protesting the government. It could be considered it could be considered hate speech. So you need the precedent that you're setting that
Mm-hmm.
your case is trying to set, should I say, because nothing has happened yet. And I pray to God that it doesn't. But the precedents that they're trying to set would allow the government to go after you for hate speech, to use the fact that you were protesting, back on hate speech. Then you're looking at 2 to 5 years in prison for what? Peacefully protesting. I was
Yep.
at the Freedom Convoy before, when this whole thing happens. I wasn't really creating content back then, but I brought my now wife. I brought 2 of my bros from Montreal. We went to Ottawa because I'm like, guys, this we need to see because they're not going to report on this properly. I knew this in 2022, right? It was
Mhm.
people. It was a massive party. It was literally like a massive party. That's the best way I can explain it.
It was,
Yet,
yeah.
you're looking at 5 years in jail, and that could become the reality of anybody that protests, that strikes, that pickets on the side of the street because you're an inconvenience to people.
Yeah.
You could now end up in a pen.
That's what they want. And the Crown openly stated that we want this a penitentiary sentence. They even had the balls to ask when the 3 Crown attorney or the 3 Crown the 3 judges at the appeal court asked, "What is your outcome? What do you want to see happen here?" And the 1 Crown attorney girl looks right at the judge and says, "Well, we'd really like it if you sentenced him today, but we know that can't happen." And then she said, "I'd really like to see this take it back to sentencing. We'll go back to a sentencing and tack on some more time. Or if your honor so choose, we can take this back to retrial. We're ready to go for that too if we want." My jaw dropped. I was like, "Are you kidding me right now? You want these guys to rule?" And the judge came back and says, "Well, we're definitely not ready for that right now," he says. But it was like, this is how bad the Crown wants this. And I want to bring something up to people. As much as everybody thinks, okay, well, Pat's going through, why is Pat going through this? This is something else we need to take out of this. It isn't just for the convoy. First and foremost, I have been opening people's eyes for the last decade of what's been happening in Canada. We exposed Justin Trudeau on several attempts with SNC Lavalin to the Shaka Khan or whatever that guy's name is, to Chinese infiltration, to selling us out to foreign infiltration, all of this stuff. I've been after this for over a decade and waking Canadians up and been quite the thorn in the side for these guys. What they want is they want me. They want me silenced because they know I know too much. I get it. I'm kind of a loudmouth, and I'll bring it out and bring the information out. The other 2 are just consolation prizes. And that's what they don't, you think that, oh, well, they're not going through it. This is fine. Yeah, because they're not, the Crown does not want them as bad as they want me. And that should speak volumes to people. Just because I'm one guy that says, you know what, I don't believe in what you're saying. I'm going to fight the COVID narrative. I'm going to take you to courts. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this gets exposed. And that's why they want me the hardest. They want to make a message with me. And they think, oh, sooner or later, we're going to break Pat's spirit. We're going to break him. Wrong. Every time you come at me harder, I'd come back 10 times harder. Wrong thing to do. But now it's trying to encourage people to be like, hey, guys, okay, guess what? Yeah, they want me, but you're next. You're the next. And I'm looking right into you guys and telling you, yeah, they want me. I get it. Big mouth, lots of exposing, lots of shit's been exposed through me, and they want me, but you're next. When you go up against, let's take, for example, the people that are just on the street outside of Wellington Street and are heckling Carney on a daily basis. You step in the road, car stops, cop can stop you. Cop will arrest you for blocking traffic in the process of a protest. Guess what? Just because you stepped out on the sidewalk to say something to Carney, now you block traffic. You could be sentenced to 5 years in jail. Isn't that interesting how that plays out? Even somebody who's protesting, they don't like chicken wings outside of a chicken restaurant. You don't like chicken wings, so you're going to go protest about chicken wings. You stop cars. Oh, shit. Guess what? You're going to jail for 5 years. Interesting how that works. Very interesting.
The thing is that they won't even need to go down that far Because look at what's going on in the UK. At least 13,000 people a year are arrested for social media posts. They don't necessarily go to jail. A very small portion of them go to jail because they know that the process has become the punishment. If you're crushing dissent from the get-go, if you know that there's a potential 2 to 5 years in prison for disrupting traffic, who's going to really want to protest? This is the thing, right? They just need to make one example, set a precedent, and once that's done, people are going to learn. People are going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do this because I don't want the consequences.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like, I've known you for a little while now. We've met in real life. We've recorded before.
Yeah.
And you have one of those personalities. It's similar to mine. You people either love you or they hate you. There's not, everybody has an opinion, and you're either on you're on either side, right? And even from the comments I'm seeing right now, there's some people that are just ripping into. No matter how people feel, because that's something, you know what? I'll let you answer this, because on Monday you said something that I absolutely appreciated, that the way people feel about you should be irrelevant to what's happening right now. Can you go back to Monday and explain that again?
Yeah, so I know that, and I speak mainly to more left-leaning ideology people when I say it, is this. Even people in our own groups, you know, within our own factions of people who are doing things and trying to stand up for their rights in Canada. Whether you like me or hate me, it's irrelevant in this question, because listen to this. Yeah, I'm just one guy. I have a difference of opinion. You don't like my opinion. That's fine. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. But the second that we start arguing with each other, they win. So what they're doing now is they're wanting to have people fighting against each other, the left and the right. And already we're seeing the slow onset of these charges happening to people on the left. And because I am who I am, people on the left don't appreciate my opinion. But at the same time, they are starting to see that they're being used, and cases such as ours are being used against them. And they're starting to come out now and be like, wait a minute, something is wrong. And I'm getting a lot of even liberal-minded people are reaching out going, yeah, this is wrong. I don't like you, but this is still a waste of taxpayers' dollars and stuff. But this is it. Whether I agree with the left's opinions is moot. If they're arrested and charged with these kind of crimes, that is a direct violation of your Charter of Rights for freedom of speech, freedom of protest, and freedom of assembly. I would still advocate for the left if this happened to them. And I have. And the left needs to start advocating for the right in my situation, to start saying, whoa, wait a minute. All right, I think we took this a little too far. Whether you like me or hate me, it doesn't matter. This has gone too far. And the government is moving further and further upfield, while we're still back at the 10-yard line arguing over, you know, left and right ideas. And this is the problem I have, is I'm trying to wake people up. It's like, I don't care if you don't like me. I don't like you. But at the same time, I can still say this is wrong. And that's democracy. We can both have differences of opinions, but know that for the greater good of the people, this is wrong, whether we like it or not. And that's how democracy was initially, you know, formed, was through the differences of opinions for everybody else. I just feel that people need to really start paying attention to what's going on in these cases, and the level of, the lack of media on this that's the scary part for me, is because that shows me that we already know the media is corrupted, but the fact that there's not even a cricket chirping about it means that they've been told, don't touch this. We don't want this in the media. We don't want this up, because usually CBC's just chomping at the bit to do a story about me. They're waiting to smear me in some shape, some form, but not this one. Not this one. They don't want this one in the news. It's because they know that people are going to be like, whoa, you're still going after these guys? You're still wasting all this money, all this taxpaying dollars on all of these guys? So just, it's crazy, Nico. Like, I don't know what more to elaborate on it, but for everybody out there, you got to start paying attention. This isn't a left-right problem, and it never was. You know, a lot of us got lost in the fact that we stand this way and you stand that way, and we don't like you and you don't like us, and whatever it is, what it is. But now we're starting that left-right needs to start coming closer to center, and I feel that if we bring it back closer to center, we're on the money, and Canada we can overturn all of this nonsense in a short span of time. It won't take long. I feel
it wouldn't take long. I saw a video earlier. One of my followers on Instagram sent me a video of this guy. I reached out to him. I'd love to talk to him, but he was just breaking down how many people are in office, how many police officers are in Canada, how many RCMP. He's like, so you guys think that we cannot overthrow the government? Let's look at the numbers. And he starts going through the numbers, and by the end, you're looking at about 40,000 people that we would need to overthrow. He's like, bro, there's 20 million of us Canadian born in Canada. You don't think we can overthrow 35,000 people? I was laughing because I'm like, numbers don't lie, right? The numbers are right there. And I'm not saying to go violent. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying we are letting the very few control us because we're too busy arguing amongst each other, when something like what's happening to you, people can hate you. That's fine. I get it. I understand it. I get that hate every day. But it doesn't change the fact that if I saw someone that I don't like go through what you're going through and look at what it actually means, not say, oh, you deserve it because I don't like you. No, say, okay, hold on here. However I feel about the man, does he deserve this? That's one thing. Do I want that type of precedent to be set that I could be accused of? Because I've protested many times in my life. Me as Nico right now, I'm being selfish. I'm like, I don't want Pat to be found guilty of this because I don't want them to use Pat against me later on and further generations like my son. And this is a thing, I don't know what it's going to take for people that don't like you to understand that simple fact, to kind of detach their emotions from facts and just say, however I feel about this guy, this is not right, this cannot stand, and I should stand behind him, not because I like him, but because I don't want Canada to become what they're trying to turn it into.
Well, how about here's a scenario we can look at it without a left or right issue. How about these people that are coming into this country illegally and are working slave jobs, and then they get their citizenship and now they're going to protest, okay, because they're not getting paid enough, or it's slave labor, or whatever scenario unfolds in the future. And then these people decide, you know what? Hey, let's get together as a group and protest what happened to us. We came here looking for free, this and that, and free accommodations and all that, and now we're not getting it anymore. Now those people are going to get the same treatment. And this is where I reach out to the new Canadians out there. Understand you don't understand what our laws are and the way our governance works, but at the same time, know that what's happening to us is going to impact you in the future as well, when you decide at some point, enough is enough, I can't do this anymore. Well, your kids' future, in the future, when your kids are struggling like our kids are struggling these days, it's the same scenario. And this is where you can encircle it again and say it's not a left-right problem. It's not a illegal immigration, legal immigration problem. It's an everybody problem. And this government continues to move up the field, and I use it because it's the art of war. They continue to move up the field while they keep the left and the right fighting each other and keeping us at each other's throats. But people need to realize that the second that we put the gloves down and we turn from facing each other and we all turn to the same direction, it's over for them. And we can fix this. And it's not, you said something about overthrowing the government. It's not even something as abrasive or as aggressive as overthrowing the government. It's a matter of people coming together and, saying, yeah, no, this is it. We can say, vote a non-confidence right now. We can have it done with a collective, with enough people in a group, millions, I'm saying, not just saying a handful of people, but with millions of people, we can force the change in this government. Look at what we did with the government, with the federal mandates, with the COVID. COVID went obsolete after the convoy. So don't tell me that we can't do that again. And on a bigger,
but it was worldwide.
yes,
The US wouldn't shut up about it. Just look at what's going on in Ireland right now. They're using the same tactics you guys use over there. So this was a world event that started right here in Canada. And I was lucky enough to see it for myself. But it's, one of the things that I got from your live on Monday, and I wanted to explore that with you, is, are you losing hope? Because that's one thing. If you got a guy like you that, again, however people feel about you, what you've been through, and you start losing hope, that's not a good indication for the rest of Canada. But are you losing hope in Canada? Do you think it's still possible to save it?
I'm losing hope. Well, I've lost hope with the judicial system. And after Monday's outcome, we're still waiting. They decided to defer judgment till a later date without giving us a date of when they're going to give us their judgment. Now they have up to 18 months to come back with a verdict. At the same time, it has shown me how the judicial system works. Okay, I've practiced, not efficiently, but rehearsed enough that I can fight provincial courts and bylaw courts by self-representation. I can do that, no problem. It's easy. I've won several times, and I'm okay with that. Fighting tickets, fighting bylaw tickets, things like that. But the criminal courts, I was a little intimidated. I did not want to go up into a criminal court self-representing. But what Monday's verdict, or what Monday's outcome has decided for me is, yeah, I lost hope in the judicial system. Yeah, I've lost hope in Canada. And what it's shown me is that I have nobody else but myself. Lawyers aren't going to be there for you. The Crown's not doing their job in upholding the law in Canada. So I'm going to have to go ahead and do my own self-representing. So now, from now on, from this day, from starting on Monday, I will no longer be using lawyers for anything, and I will be going into all of my court cases self-representing.
What difference do you think that's going to make?
On the basis of, I do not trust this bar. I do not trust them at all.
Yeah, because you were mentioning in your video on Monday that your lawyer dropped the ball a few times on Monday.
I felt like he was very... Now, I want to be careful how I say it, because I know Brian is a very good man, and I know his heart's in the right place. And I know that he needs money to get paid to do the job that he has to do. At the same time, money isn't flowing in, and, I don't have the ability to raise $40,000 overnight to help fight malicious prosecution against the Crown. But other people do have that ability to do that, and it is what it is. But at this time, he's feeling a little stressed because there's no money. At the same time, I feel that leading up to the appeal on Monday, everything was being told to me that we got this, it's no problem, this is easy peasy, it's straight to the point. Here it is, here's the factum, here's what we're proving. And then when he got up in front of the judges, nervousness set in, a little bit of intimidation. He even told me how he was intimidated in there. The judges are allowed to stop you in the middle of your address to them and ask you questions in the middle, which gets you off your topic, which steers you in a different direction, and you lose sight of it. But my fear in this is, I fear that somebody got to him, and maybe he threw the game, and we had this out, and I'm not going to hold back from anybody. I let him have it. I wasn't impressed. I wasn't happy. Halfway through it, I was about to pull him as a lawyer in the middle of the hearing. And I don't know what more to say when it comes to that, but I feel that I was told one thing, and then when it got to game day, it's like showing up to the game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you got no equipment on. You're out there just with jersey and skates. It's like, whoa. you're going to get hit, man. And I think we got hit pretty hard. But I do know that 90% of these things are on paper. And when you look at our factum, you look at our evidence, you look at everything that we cited, it's very bang on. But the presentation was horrible. And I said that to him. I said, that was horrible. It was horrible. I must have paced my yard. I got 3 acres. I must have paced my yard 20 times. I bet you I walked about 5 kilometers in my backyard that day. I just couldn't stop. Like, it's getting to be more and more that these lawyers are proving their incompetence.
It's you know, I I don't know that I trust lawyers either. I don't like lawyers. Could I trust them in a situation of survival? I don't know. So I get your point. I fully understand what you're saying. There's a comment that just flew in somewhere that's they all know each other. And they're not wrong, right? You can say whatever you want. Lawyers do know each other. Just like in my field as a sales engineer in telecommunication, I knew all the sales engineers from all other companies because guess what? We do the same work. We're always at the same events. We're always attending the same courts. So obviously we know each other. Is that possible that it happens? Yes. And I wouldn't like to be in your situation feeling that my lawyer didn't do his best on purpose.
It's always put that bad feeling in my mouth every time, or taste in my mouth every time I hear the guy who's trying to keep you out of jail. Look at the guy that's trying to put you in jail and call him your friend. I don't know anybody out there. If I'm paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's not your friend. That guy is your worst sworn enemy, and you're going to do everything you can to put him in the ground.
I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. I've said similar things about Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney. If Pierre Poilievre really believes that Mark Carney is destroying the country, why is he shaking his hands laughing? I wouldn't touch you, bro. If like, no, not happening. So I see exactly what you're saying, and I agree. Behavior does matter.
Yeah, people are asking where is Natasha. Natasha is not an appeals court. Not appeal. She doesn't do appeals. So I had to find somebody who was able to do appeals. So Natasha is still there. She's still in the background, but even at the same time, there was moments in my trial where there were very key pieces of evidence that needed to be introduced, and they weren't. And as to why, I was always told, no, just trust me. Trust me what I'm doing here. Just trust me. So even in that, I think the trial initially could have went a whole nother direction in several key pieces of information, evidence that I wanted brought forward, but it never did. So in this event now, I think I'm seasoned enough in the criminal courts now that I'm going to start to represent myself. And there's one key point that we take out of this is when you self-represent, it's the judge's obligation and duty to help you and direct you in every way possible and to make available to you all resources needed so that you can fight this in court. So let's use it against them. Like I contemplated several different instances, and I think the only thing is once I realized that I've lost all hope in the judicial system, well then time to give myself my own hope and do it myself.
You're going to trust yourself. I would trust myself a lot more than I would do somebody else. So I fully understand where you're coming from. And especially now with today, with access to all the information, you're able to find all the information that you need to at least do a good job. You might not do a great job, but you would be able to do a good job defending yourself. And you're getting help from the judge. It's even better.
Yeah. So that's my plan. I wanted to keep talking. I wanted misidentification of injunctions. So I wanted to bring something up to people with regards to injunctions and kind of I don't know, bring it all into one big circle. But know this: the injunctions that were in place in Ottawa had enough law built into them that they could have broke down the Freedom Convoy 100% without a doubt, lawfully, without invoking the Emergencies Act. And it was proven in my trial that there were already laws in place that they could have had the convoy taken out. Well, not taken out, but dismantled and people moved out by using bylaw enforcement. I have it in my case, Kim Ayotte openly testifying, stating that there were laws in place to move people, but we did not enforce them. The obligation or duty to protect falls on the city of Ottawa. So the city of Ottawa failed the city of Ottawa, if that makes any sense to people. And that's something that got brought out. And then when Kim Ayotte was asked on the stand, well, why did the city of Ottawa allow them to come into Ottawa then? If they had these rules in place, why did they allow them? And Kim Ayotte openly, right on the stand, said, well, we would be directly violating their rights and their rights. We had to allow them into the city because they have the right to protest. They have the constitutional right. And I think that in itself is what's scaring the Crown, because we have that on record, where when it comes to the appeal that they're trying to go through at the Supreme Court level on the Emergencies Act, that is where they're going to lose, is because we have that piece of evidence. So now they know, shit, in another 3 more years, when they get done with this appeal in the Supreme Court, it's still going to be found that the thresholds were never met. Mr. King's trial and evidence is going to prove that the thresholds were never met. And in fact, the thresholds were already there. They didn't need to invoke. So Mr. King needs to be brutally dragged through the court system, because he's got the evidence that's going to prove everything that they were right, and like us ourselves are right. And they want to punish me. So in the midst of it all, they want to make sure that they make an example out of it.
Do you think that one of the reasons why they're actually making an example out of you to a very further extent than Tamara Lynch and Chris Barber is the fact that a lot of your court case was based on your own comments, on what you said online, on what you said on social media, because you were very, very vocal.
Absolutely.
As to how you felt about the Freedom Convoy, how you felt about what was happening, unlike Chris Barber and Tamara Lynch, where they were more in the news. Like, we knew who they were because of the news. You were doing your own thing and verbally attacking the government, verbally attacking. Do you know what I'm saying when I say verbally attacking? I'm not saying that you're threatening anybody, but you are saying your piece. You are causing ruckus for them. Nope. Do you think that that's why they went after you more?
Not at all. Not at all. They went after me more because I had a louder voice than the other two. I was actually making change throughout Canada for the last decade. I had a larger following. I had, in fact, in Tamara and Chris's own text messages between Keith Wilson, is they had to put a stop to me because I was making them look bad. You know, because I was actually feeding truckers. I was actually housing truckers. I was giving truckers fuel. I was paying for people's hotel rooms. I was making hotel rooms that were empty just so people could go in and have showers. We were coordinating everything on the streets, and I was handing money out left and right to people. And there's text messages between the other two stating, well, we got to put a stop to Pat. We got to get away from him because he's making us look bad, because I was doing what we were supposed to do. And I think what the government is going after me for is for that exact reason. I made everything look bad. I made it look bad. I made the infiltrators look bad on our own side. I made the government look bad on. I have kind of a kind of gift of calling out the bullshit when I see it right in front of your face. And a lot of times I have a camera in my hand. So I do that intentionally. I did all the recordings intentionally, because even with the recordings where they stated, well, and you just stated just in yourself that Mr. King caused a ruckus. In fact, it was proven that I didn't do any of that, and within significant respects. And it was the closing arguments of the judge who said Mr. King was quite vocal in his recordings on keeping things peaceful and making sure there was no damage to property. And Mr. King handled that within significant respects and can be credited for that not happening. So even you saying that I caused a ruckus has been proven in court that I didn't. And that's what the others tried to do as well, to say, you know, oh, Pat's, you know, we don't promote violence. Or at what point in anywhere did I ever say anything of violence? In my trial, it never came up. It came up. Mr. King was calling out for violence. They asked for evidence. There was no evidence. I never asked for violence. And then when it come to the arrest, I told people, take a knee, turn your backs, let them arrest you submissively. That will send a louder statement to the world. When they start beating you with batons and tear gas while you're on the knees, your hands behind your back, and they're beating on you, that's going to make a huge impact. And that's what they wanted, was the influence that we didn't give them the riot they wanted. There were scenarios set in place in Ottawa that we were getting tipped off to, that there were supposed to be false flag events in Ottawa, and we were able to stop them before they happened. We were able to, we seen them happen. People would call, something's going on over here. We'd run over and we'd disperse the crowd and get everybody calmed back down. And that's been proven many a time. So the reason they are going after me harder is because we were able to destroy their narrative. Justin Trudeau had already had his speech written for the riot that was supposed to happen. He already had the speech written. The riot never happened. Other people within the organization groups knew that riots were supposed to happen. Things bad were supposed to happen. They even moved their trucks off the front line because they knew something bad was going to happen. But we never let it happen. So why? Because Mr. King doesn't play ball with these people in order to spin a conservative narrative, in order to spin a liberal narrative. No, Mr. King's there for the people, and that scares them. I don't give a shit about left. I don't give a shit about right. I don't care about liberal. I don't care about friggin' conservatives. What I care about is each and every one of us has the right to live, the right to move freely within reason. You don't be an asshole. You don't go robbing people. You don't go stealing money from people. You don't go doing any of that stuff. But you be a good citizen. The government leaves you the hell alone, and that's where I am. I'm at the threshold where the government gets the hell out of my back pocket, stays out of my house, stays off my property, and we'll get along great. And I know I've seen conservative bandwagon riders flying the flag. I watched Polyev use the our playbook to promote himself through the convoy, that he's for us, but he's not. I've watched this so many times. It's become, I don't know, it's just become so, like, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. Like, in your face. It's there, right in your face. The government doesn't care. The government doesn't care. The government just wants their piece of the pie to feed their machine and to feed themselves, and we're expendable. Well, I'm tired of being expendable. I'm tired of being a cash cow for the government. I'm tired of watching my dollars go to foreign wars. I'm tired of watching money leave this country and our country going downhill. I'm tired of watching people dying on the streets from drug overdoses that our government is force feeding them and allowing them and enabling them to do. I'm tired of watching this country go for a shit in a hell in a handbasket in a hurry. And I'm sick and tired of watching us become the laughing stock on a global scale until the day I die. I will gladly stand for Canada and Canada first all the time. I don't care about these politicians in there. I care about you. I care about the people on the streets. I care about people in their homes that are starving, the single mothers that are trying to feed their kids, the retiree that's trying to put food on their table and not eating cat food. I care about people. I don't care about government. Government can get the hell out of here. And that's their problem. That is why they're after me. I am one for the people, where the government's supposed to be for the people, but they're not. And we're proving it left and right.
What do you think comes next for not only your court case, but for Canada as a whole? Because we've had that conversation, you and I. How do we make the government take notice without making it violent? What do you think we need to do?
So I've said this many a times. The convoy was able to prove many aspects of what your future entails in Canada. One of them is peaceful protesters are going to get beaten, pepper sprayed, shot with rubber bullets, no matter where you're at. Does not matter. It's going to happen. Protesting is not working, unfortunately. But at the same time, mass civil disobedience, maybe even a possible nationwide strike across the board, anything that's going to put a huge impact on them, but not us. And I tried to set something up for this weekend over the last few months to have everybody shut down on the long weekend in May. It didn't gain traction and whatever, but unfortunately, there's only one way, Nico, and the government knows this. The government creates the problem because they have the answer. They got the solution. So the problem they're creating is to force us into a civil uprising, which then justifies their actions, justifies their laws, justifies everything they've been saying. So what we do is very peacefully, without any violence, is we just take it back. And we can do that. I don't think it'll happen, but I think we can. And I think if we went in, then I don't know. I don't want to say much more because you know where it goes. You know who's watching, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, there it is. That's what we needed. We needed Mr. King to say that." And I'm not gonna say it, but we need to start. We need to start working together. And this was the other thing. You know, love me or hate me, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get in your little organizations. I don't want to be a part of your shit. I don't want to be the leader of your riot, of your protests. I don't want to be the leader of your groups. I don't want any of that. But what I do want to do is I want to work with everybody and get everybody on the same page and everybody under the same banner. Like COVID. COVID was the answer, right? COVID. Everybody got under that flag. Now everybody needs to get back under another flag, and that other flag is these trials. These courts where the crown is manipulating the judicial system, protesting, and this makes the convoy look like a friggin' Sunday walk in the park, because what they're doing now is even worse, and it's going to hurt us even more, and it's going to hurt Canadians even more in the future. It'll be forever, and people need to get up. They need to start speaking, and they need to start taking action. I feel that a lot of people don't have that in them anymore.
You know, I've said this to you before and I'll say it again. Personally, I think it needs to get worse before it gets better for the average Canadian to actually realize what's really happening. Because I'm like you, I speak a lot about bills, right? I read bills, I speak about bills, and I understand technology, like what social media bans actually mean. It means a digital ID. And I talk about this all the time, but the average Canadian just does not care enough right now because it's not affecting them personally yet.
Yeah.
But
and they know that. And then it's
yeah.
just like the sword. They slowly inch the sword in your rib cage. They slowly put it in. So over time you get used to this little, this little pain there, and you're like, you'll live with it. I can live with that. I can live with that until that last minute, and then they just go, whoop, and they get you. And we're right there. We're right at the precipice, I feel. But they've created this mess because they have the answer. And out of the chaos comes the order. And Mr. Carney's being very vocal on what that order is. And that's where we're going with this. And now we're wanting Canada to be a part of the European Union or some kind of partnership agreement with the European Union. You want our goods? Come get our goods. Come sell. Come buy our shit. I get it. But I don't need to be a part of Europe. My country doesn't need to be a part of Europe. The country doesn't need to be a part of anything else. You want our stuff? Come and get it. That's plain and simple. I don't know how this business relationships are going in our government, but man, oh man, I'll tell you, a little bit of streamlining can go a long way.
Pat, we're an hour in. I want to thank you for accepting my invitation yesterday. Thank you for being here. Continue doing what you're doing. Love you, hate you. People need to pay attention to you.
And I'm not even saying it in that. It's guys, this empathetic me, the empath in me, feels really bad for the rest of the country for what we did on the basis of how these courts are going through. Not that I feel bad for what I did. I don't feel bad for what I did. I think we did everything within the rights that we should be as Canadians to protest, and we did it on an exemplary level. We did it with pride. We did it with Canadian pride. We did it with, maturity, respect. We did it in all the ways possible to keep it Canadian and in how the world views Canada. But now with these court cases, and I didn't know that they would go this route. So for that, I feel bad. I feel bad that I may set precedents across Canada for future generations. And for that, I'll always carry that on my back, man. And I feel bad for
I understand. I fully understand, but we're not there yet, and God willing, we won't. But thank you, Pat, for being here. I want to thank everybody in the comment section. There was a lot of comments that were in your favor. There was some that weren't. I normally spend a lot of time in the comment section, but unfortunately today the conversation just went. But thank you for watching. Thank you for being there. If you like the show, make sure to like, make sure to comment if you're not watching this live, and join us tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll be back. Until then, Pat, thank you. Thank you in the comment section, and we will see you later. Peace.
See you guys.